Someone can tell you 10 things they genuinely appreciate about you and one thing they find frustrating, and 3 months later, the one thing is the memory that's still sharp, and the 10 things have blurred together into a vague warmth you can barely reconstruct. This isn't a personal failing. It's one of the most consistent findings in memory research, and the reason for it is woven into how your brain decides what's worth remembering in the first place. Your brain treats negative and positive information asymmetrically, not just in how it feels to experience them, but in how they get encoded into memory. Negative events, criticism, threats, and losses receive more cognitive processing than positive events of equivalent intensity. They're examined from more angles, thought about more carefully, and stored with more detail. The evolutionary logic is straightforward. Missing a positive opportunity has a ceiling on its cost. You don't get the benefit. Missing a negative signal, a threat, a warning, a sign that something is wrong, can have catastrophic consequences. A brain that treated something good might happen and something bad might happen with equal attention would be a brain that didn't survive long enough to pass on its genes. In studies measuring memory for emotional content, negative words, images, and events are consistently recalled better than positive ones, even when the emotional intensity is carefully matched. The effect is robust across ages and cultures, though it decreases somewhat in older adults, possibly because the brain's emotional regulation systems become more skilled at managing negative input over time. What's particularly striking is that the negativity bias in memory isn't just about intensity. It operates even at low levels of negativity. Mildly negative events are remembered better than mildly positive events, not just dramatic negative ones. The asymmetry isn't about trauma. It's the baseline operating mode of memory for emotional content. One reason negative memories stay vivid longer isn't just that they're encoded more strongly. It's that we revisit them more. The same threat detection system that made the original negative event memorable also prompts your brain to return to it, re-examine it, and look for lessons or patterns that might help you avoid a recurrence. This repetitive recall does two things. It keeps the memory accessible and detailed, and it can also slowly distort it, as each reconstruction adds the perspective of the current moment. An insult from 5 years ago may be recalled not as it happened, but as your brain has rehearsed and reinterpreted it dozens of times since, often in progressively more painful terms. The negativity bias in memory shapes more than just how you feel about yourself. It affects how you assess relationships. The ratio of positive to negative interactions required for a relationship to feel good is consistently higher than 1-to-1 because the negatives are remembered more. It affects how you evaluate your own performance. One critical piece of feedback can overshadow multiple positive signals. It affects how you learn, since mistakes tend to teach more than successes, partly because they're encoded more deeply. So when you can still hear the exact wording of an insult from years ago, but can barely reconstruct the 10 compliments that surrounded it, that's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do. It decided the insult was more worth remembering than the praise. The practical implication isn't that you should try to remember more compliments. It's that you should be aware that your memory is not a neutral recorder. It's been systematically editing your experience in favor of the negative since the day you were born. If you want to learn more about this topic, feel free to subscribe.